Hello CS112, today I will be going over Lab 6, the Butterfly Shuffle in Python Visualizer's live programming mode. So I'm just going to copy and paste sort of the overall gist of it. I sort of paraphrase here at the top a little bit. I'm going to quickly show what most of you guys did, and then I want to show you a different approach to this based on the hints that the creator made for this function, because most of you sort of just didn't really look at the hints and did it your own way, but that's fine. So what most of you guys did was you guys knew that you had to get this list of integers and butterfly it up. So what that means is you return a new list with by appending the original list's first element, then last element, then second element, then second to last element, so on and so forth. And you guys know to access the last element, you have to use the list name and then -1. So most of you guys created a variable that was set to -1, and every time you would append it, you would decrement it. So I'm going to quickly show you exactly what was with that, what was happening there. So this was pretty close to most of your guys' solutions, where you would initialize the negative counts to reach that last number, and then you would initialize an empty list, and you would iterate through your original list number list, and you would append the original the I, which is your first index, of course, and I'll explain this in a bit. But then you would also append the last number of the list you were given, so it would sort of switch back and forth, attacking from both ends kind of situation. But then most of you guys ran into the problem where your return list would be twice as long. But then most of you guys figured out that, hey, we can either just only iterate through half the list, or we could do this sort of brute force method here, where every single time you would append a number, you would check to see if the length of this list is equal to the length of this list. Because if it is, you're done. You don't need to do anything else. You already have your proper appending here. You already have the proper sort of pattern created, so there's no need to continue. We're not adding or subtracting any integers from this list, so it's going to be the same length. So now let's talk about the hints. This was pretty good hints, but that doesn't really apply to this method here. So the hints paraphrase is think what is required to generate alternating indices, and how do you do something every other time. So I'm going to focus on that word indices and sort of how to do it every other time, so take turns. So I'm quickly here right underneath the output list, just so it's easier to see. I'm going to put the indexes of the list. This does happen to be the input list, but just ignore that for now. So as you can see, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now the first thing you should notice, you always got to look for patterns with your indices as well as your output list. And the first thing that sort of glares out to you is every even index, including 0, is appending from the front, and every odd index is appending from the back. So knowing this information, we can do something every other time. We can sort of take turns. So one time we will append from the front, and then every other time we'll append from the front, every other time we'll append from the back. The first time you'll append from the front, second time the back, front, back, depending on whether your output list mod 2 is 0 or not. So let's see that in action. So let's see this in action. So if I modulus 2, again, you can't ever do, if your code ever looks like 2 modulus I, that's wrong. It always has to be I modulus 2, because you can't divide or modulus by 0. So if I modulus 2 equals 0, that means it is even. 0 mod 2 also equals 0, so that will include the 0 if index. So if that is the case, you want to append from the front. Butterfly dot append number list I, right? And then you also want to check, okay, so first of all, I'm just going to get rid of this error, it's bothering me. So you want to check if, I'm going to go ahead and make an else statement for that. Butterfly dot append number list count, right? Because if it's an odd, we want to attack from the back. And like the previous method, we want to update count. So count minus equals 1. Now, that should be it, right? We should be done. Butterfly should equal what it should. So let's test it out. Of course, name I is not defined. Well, that is because there is not even a for loop. That is good. That's very good. So for an I in range, length, number lists. All right, that was nice. That was nice. Okay, so now that we have our loop, and we're going to indent these bad boys. So it should equal what it should, right? Because every even index, or including 0, we're going to append from the front. Every odd index from the back. Now let's go back here. That's odd. It's not iterating properly, and it appears as though it is our even indices that are messing up. So let's go to the front here and let's start iterating. So we're supposed to get 0, okay, from our empty list here that is pointing. We want to pay attention to this and compare it to this our output. So we're going to continue iterating. Okay, so it's appended 0. 0's here. 0's here. That's good. So next, it's going to append 5, which is exactly what we need. Now it appends 2. Why is that? If you go back here and you check, I gets incremented even when it's not being appended. So we're skipping over a number here. Because, see, when I mod 2 equals 0, that's when you actually append I. But if in the case it's not, it goes to this else. We append counts and we update counts, but I is also updating. I should not be updating here because it's not getting appended, so we're skipping over a number. So, easiest fix to this is just creating a front count. So I'm going to name this front. So front equals 0 because we are starting from the 0 index. And instead of appending list I, we append num list front. And just like that, we have the correct output. We do not have the correct output. I honestly was expecting the correct output here, guys. So let's figure out what's wrong with our code, or my code here. Yes, because as you can see here, now that we have created our own front, it is not being updated, unlike the I would inside the for loop. So now we can just, if we just update our front, and go to the last step, go hit previous, we have the correct output. So both methods worked fine. The thing that was different, you don't actually have to keep track of the size of your list using this method. So you don't need to have an if butterfly length equals number list length line. You don't have to have only iterate through half the list. You can just, we'll just iterate from start to ends, appending as needed. So this sort of appends every other time.